Hello, welcome to Lightning Round, a series where I try and explain DJ and production topics in as little time as possible without missing anything super important. Today we're going to talk about decibels and how they're measured. So decibels are what we use to measure volume, and yes, I know decibels can measure other things, but we're going to stick to volume for the sake of time for this video. There are two main things that confuse a lot of people about decibels, and the first is that they're actually logarithmic, meaning that the gap between 40 and 45 decibels is actually a much smaller gap than between 45 and 50 decibels. So 1 decibel of increase is about 26% more power, but twice as much acoustic power, or twice as many speakers, is about 3 decibels. Technically it's 1.995 or something more speakers is 3 decibels, but we're going to round it for simplicity. So it follows then that if you double the speakers, you get 3 decibels more. If you quadruple the speakers, you get 6 decibels more. And if you octuple is the word, right? Octuple the speakers, if you have 8 times as many speakers, it's going to be 9 decibels louder. And the nice thing about the way this scale works is that 10 times the speakers is 10 more decibels. So a factor of 10 scales evenly. And because we use this logarithmic scale, if you took something like a Beats pill that advertises, I think, like 80 decibels for continuous play, then 2 Beats pills is not a 160 decibel sound system. 2 Beats pills is an 83 decibel system. To get 160 decibels, you would need somewhere on the order of 100 million Beats pills, and it would be louder than a flashbang grenade is at the moment of ignition, but it would be continuous, so that would be devastating and you don't want to do that. By the way, the loudest sound wave that you can have that isn't distorted in the Earth's atmosphere is 191 decibels, because anything greater than that and you're running into negative pressure, so you would have to have an increased pressure system. That's not relevant, but I think it's interesting. The second thing that confuses people a lot about the decibel scale is that, as you may have noticed, it doesn't actually measure volume. It actually measures the difference between volumes. So we've kind of attached a universal reference point to this scale and set 0 decibels to be the quietest sound that a human ear could possibly be sensitive to, and then scaled it up and down from there. But what we're actually measuring is called SPL, or sound pressure level. I know I'm simplifying a little bit and peak measurements exist, but again, I'm trying to keep these short-ish. The lowest threshold that a human ear can pick up is about 0.00002 pascals of air pressure, moving up and down in a wave. A car driving by is about 0.1 pascal, a jackhammer is about 2 pascals of pressure difference, and someone screaming right in your ear is about 110 pascals. So it's a pretty wide range of numbers. So the reason we use decibels instead of pascals is because human perception also works logarithmically. Obviously, 0.00002 and 110 are, that's a factor of 7.5, but we don't think of it that way. You won't think of somebody screaming as 7.5, or a million times louder than the quietest thing you can hear. So decibels are a more natural way to measure these things. For example, if you have 1 item and then somebody else has 5 items, you feel like they have way more than you. But if you have 101 items and somebody else has 105 items, they don't have that much more than you, but in both cases, they only have 4 more things than you. The smaller the values you're working with, the more sensitive the human brain is to change, because we perceive things on a logarithmic scale. The ratio between the quietest things a human ear can pick up and the loudest things that a human ear can hear without destroying it is about 1 trillion to 1. So this log scale turns these numbers into a much more manageable system than using those gigantic decimal numbers, and it makes more sense to our brains anyway. Even volume measurement gets complicated because there are multiple ways that you can measure the volume of a sound, and that's called weighting. I'm kind of running out of time, but you can use different weightings to measure different things, and A weighting is what you would normally use for quieter things like conversation, and then B for mid-range volumes, C for anything loud enough to give you hearing damage, and D for jet engine loud things. And these weightings are slightly different to more accurately represent how the human ear picks up sound at those volumes, because it varies. I'm going to end it here. If you want to know more about these, feel free to ask me in the comments. I would love to talk more about weighting and safe volumes, but if I didn't, this wouldn't be a lightning round video. Also, final note, please, please always wear your earplugs at shows. Don't do what I did and wait a while before you finally get your earplugs going. Anything over 80 decibels can start to damage your ears after a few hours of exposure, and concerts can be anywhere from 105 to 120 decibels for multiple hours, so you need to be wearing earplugs or they're going to start fading very, very quickly. Goodbye.